Oh, hello. Goodbye. If you're like me, smart, good looking, and decided to main rogue, then you've probably seen a lot of different builds. I've already gone through a majority of them to pick out some of the best ones for you to play through, and ultimately let you know what the most efficient way to play rogue is. Now there are two main criteria that I'm looking for in this: adaptability and jack of all traits or range of motion when it comes to damage. The first one being that I want to be able to do what I need to do when I need to do it. I don't want to rely on a specific ability. I don't want to be stuck playing a certain way due to the fact because of the build, it has to be centered around that. The second one, I want to be able to have a good range of motion when it comes to killing large mobs of enemies, taking on as many as I like, but also not get slowed down when it comes to taking on elites or bosses. Also, this is basically for low level beginners getting into Diablo and just leveling in general if you're trying to play the class. Now, I initially wanted to try out Archer. It made sense considering how squishy the rogues are in this game, and staying back in the distance and mowing all your enemies down just sounds like a lot of fun and pretty versatile. However, I found out Archers in this game weren't all that great. Now, as of making this video, there has been a great video made that shows how well you can make an archer class that decimates everything. However, it kind of requires you to be a little higher level, up into level 50 and stuff like that, to get the aspect. Now, what I saw that what they were doing, what I was end up doing based off of two different builds that I went off of, Fextra Life and Graphic, you can go check their videos out, respects to them for making these builds, was the ease of use. It's real easy to pick up these classes and use them. They're mechanically speaking, they can take out mobs of enemies. However, when it did come to elites and bosses, it did get slower. I think being an archer, leveling up, especially using like barrage shot, is the way to go. I did end up tweaking it and adding my own flair to things to try to see if I can do more damage or take on more enemies. However, it just kind of felt like it plateaued and needed some more higher level aspects in order to make it better. But go check out Nazar GG. I'll put the link right up here for you guys, or down in the description below. He has a full leveling guide on how to be an archer if you're looking down that alley. Now, what I ended up kind of leveling up the most with, and what everyone's probably the most familiar with, is the Twisted Blades build. The one where you got the shadow imbuement, and you're gonna have your Twisted Blades, you stab people, and then you dash through them, and then boom, everything that is behind you gets deleted. And I liked it, and I used it to level up for the majority of the time. However, I just felt like the jack of all trades, or the being able to use it in any situation, I was tied down to having to dash through enemies, or having my enemies having to be lined up for me. It was always the same thing. Just go in, activate shadow imbuement, stab the first guy twice, dash through, and there are times where the enemies are spread out and you gotta rope them all together like you're playing Call of Duty Zombies, and then get them to do what you need to do, and you could miss your Twisted Blades, and then your cooldowns gone. But when it comes to fighting single target enemies, it was kind of the same thing. The damage wasn't as insane, even with the ult where you had the shadow clone. However, this is fixed if you get the aspect for the Twisted Blades. That is the Blade Dancer aspect, where whenever you use your Twisted Blades, they spin around you, doing more close range melee combat to foes that you can continue on while your I guess your cooldowns reset. Now, you definitely got to check out Kraz Gaming, again, link right up here in the description below. He goes into a great deal on how to start out with Twisted Blades, and I think it is a good way to start, considering that Blade Dancer can be found in the second act, and it can be something that can go up there. But once you get Blade Dancer, I highly recommend you switch to this last class. This is something that was portrayed as endgame levels, you know, stuff that you do at the end, but I picked it up in the third act and leveled with it, and matter of fact, it was absolutely insane. Now, it is still the Twisted Blades, but we're switching up the ult. Into Death Trap, you switch up into more of a poison build with Poison Trap and Poison Imbuement, and then you have yourself being able to crit people all the time, being able to reset your ult in less less than a second and absolutely decimating single targets like elites and bosses, but taking out as big of groups as you want with no time. Now, the downside to this one is you are less mobile. You're not dashing through the enemies like you are with the previous Twisted Blade build. You're having to kind of walk up to the enemies and let them surround you, and you would think at first, well, melee, being that melee with the rogue can be dangerous with how squishy you are, but with all the lifesteal and leeching and the defenses that you build on top of it, you definitely get to stay alive and you get to delete everything in your path. Go check out Sladra's video on this. He goes in depth, and he's probably the first person I saw with this build. I'm starting to see other people pick it up and make videos on it, but give him some credit where credit is due. As for the mobility, I swapped out my defenses with Shadow Step, and it allowed me to get in and out of places, also being able to stun elites and stay on top of all that other stuff, and it made me think I was just this almighty powerful god. And so I definitely recommend the Death Trap build being the best build early on. However, the caveat is you kind of have to have the dancing blades to make it work. While you're inside of your Death Trap, your dancing blades are going around and stacking up the damage. So going off of the original Twisted Blades dashing build up until the point where you can get the dancing blades, which shouldn't take too long, and then you can switch to it. I haven't tried it without the dancing blades, but if some of you guys want to do that and tell me how that goes for you and your rogues, let me know. I do know early on as a rogue, you can just use the Poison Trap enhanced version as well as the Shadow Step upgraded up to where you can stun people for 2 seconds. You keep those elites stunned nonstop before they die. So that could be a good setup and placement before you get your dancing blades. I wanted to make this quick. I kind of wanted to point you guys in the right directions of where things were for a rogue and what was probably not as good, but what was doing really good. And go check out those videos.